Hi again, Andrea here, and welcome to Learning Outcome 1B. What do we mean by the term stakeholders? Stakeholders are the people who stand to gain or lose by the policies and activities of a business and whose concerns the business needs to address. They may include customers, employees, stockholders, suppliers, dealers, retailers, bankers, people in the surrounding community, the media, environmentalists, and elected government leaders. A primary challenge for organisations in the 21st century will be to recognise and respond to the needs of their stakeholders. For example, the need for the business to make profits may be balanced against the needs of employees to earn sufficient income, or even the need to protect the environment. Ignore the media, and they might attack your business with articles that hurt your profit. Oppose the local community, and it may stop you from expanding. Now, I will hand you back to Simon, who will start with the most important stakeholder, the owner, and will continue by looking into some legal ownership structures. If you have any difficulties while working through these sections, remember that you can watch the videos as many times as you need to.
We've previously seen that a primary challenge for organisations in the 21st century will be to recognise and respond to the needs of their stakeholders. For example, the need for the business to make profits may be balanced against the needs of employees to earn sufficient income or the need to protect the environment. In this next section, we'll see that some stakeholders' objectives carry more weight than others, and that the expectations of stakeholder groups often differ. Finally, we'll look at stakeholder mapping as a way to gain an understanding of stakeholder influence. Some stakeholders have a clear voice in an organisation. According to the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, this usually involves shareholders, customers, employees, trade unions, and local communities. These groups have an official voice and access to management, so they can state their objectives clearly. For example, shareholders will let an organisation know what their expectations are regarding profits in the company and the return on shareholders' investments. Employees may raise issues and set objectives for their safety, well-being, and earnings. The community will speak up and state its objectives about the environmental impact of the company, the appearance of the premises, and the behaviour of employees as they come out and go in. Indirect stakeholders may not have an official conduit they can use to communicate with the organisation. A business affects these people even if they can't express it through official channels. This includes suppliers from other parts of the world, a single customer of a large company, employees, landlords, mortgage lenders and creditors. An organisation has to infer what the objectives of these stakeholders might be. For example, you can imagine that an employee's creditor has an objective of the organisation keeping the employee in employment and paying them regularly. Remote suppliers might aim to send larger and larger orders, meaning they want the company to grow. Some stakeholders' objectives may carry more weight than others. For example, shareholders' demands for dividends could take precedence over the neighbourhood's need for a new playground. No matter how sympathetic you may be to all your stakeholders, some of them simply have a more direct effect on your business. You might have to persuade one set of stakeholders to be patient regarding their needs and wants. This might occur, for example, when your company's employees want a new break room. But first, you need to build a new office or branch facility. One of the divisions you will have amongst stakeholder objectives is short-term versus long-term concerns. For example, employees may want raises, while your lender is looking for company growth to justify any further loans. Your shareholders may be anxious for you to complete the expansion of your facilities to increase productivity, while the community wants you to wait for the results of an environmental impact study to determine the long-term effects of your expansion. Trying to satisfy all these stakeholders at once is rarely possible for businesses of moderate means. Since the expectations of stakeholder groups will differ, it is normal for conflict to exist regarding the importance or desirability of aspects of strategy. In most situations, a compromise will need to be reached. The more companies globalize, the more they add further complications as they operate in multiple arenas. For example, An overseas division is part of the parent company, which will likely have expectations about consistent global behavior and performance, but it's also part of a local community, which may well have different expectations. However, it may also be possible to look for compatible stakeholder expectations when developing a strategy. For example, managers of the Cornish conservation tourist attraction, the Eden Project, looked for synergies around purpose amongst different stakeholders to obtain support and funding for the venture. Both the European Union and the local Economic Development Agency were interested in developing the economy of Cornwall, one of the poorest areas in the UK, and Millennium Commission, a government-sponsoring funding body, was interested in developing local iconic architecture. We can use stakeholder mapping to gain an understanding of stakeholder influence. Stakeholder mapping identifies stakeholder expectations and power and helps us to understand political priorities. It underlines the importance of two issues. One, the interest each stakeholder has in imposing its expectations on the organisation's purposes and choice of strategies. Two, the power each stakeholder has to influence strategy. These two dimensions form the basis of the power or interest matrix. This matrix classifies stakeholders in the relation to the power they hold and to the extent that they're likely to show interest in supporting or opposing a particular strategy. The matrix helps us to think through stakeholders' influences on the development of strategy. A key component of stakeholder buy-in is an engagement. The idea behind engagement is to have open communication between all levels of stakeholders, both within and outside an organisation. The manager should clearly communicate plans for the business's future to employees, customers, and other affected parties. Engagement is also about getting feedback on proposed plans and listening to suggestions for improvement from stakeholders. Engagement also recognises that the best business ideas may come from outside the organisation. A customer may have thoughts about how to market new products, an employee may have valuable feedback on a new salary scheme, and a community member may suggest new ways to engage with locals. These communications between the business and its stakeholders are engaging ways to stimulate buy-in from those directly affected by the organisation's strategies and plans. As we've seen, stakeholders are all the people who stand to gain or lose by the policies and activities of a business, and whose concerns the business needs to address. These stakeholders can include customers, employees, stockholders, suppliers, retailers, bankers, people in the surrounding community, the media, environmentalists, and elected government leaders. We've learned that the most important stakeholder is the owner, and we looked at the most important legal ownership structures, which are sole proprietorship, partnership corporations, cooperatives, and franchises. We've also seen that the primary challenge for organisations in the 21st century will be to recognise and respond to the needs of their stakeholders. We discussed how the need for the business to make profits may be balanced against the needs of employees to earn sufficient income, or the need to protect the environment. Following on from this, we saw that if you ignore the media, they may potentially attack your business with articles that hurt profits. In relation to this, we also learned that if you oppose the local community, it may attempt to stop you from expanding. So, we now understand that since the expectations of stakeholder groups will differ, it's normal for conflict to exist regarding the importance or desirability of aspects of strategy, which is why successful business people practice the art of management.